The car is underway. This is a very small piece, but it makes a big difference during pit stops.
200. I'm Paul Page. It's Robbie Gordon's car that is on the hook now. He brought out this yellow when he caught the wall running by himself between turns 1 and 2. Let's go to the pit side, see what A.J. Foyt thinks about that.
AJ, it's really been an up and down weekend. The crew worked so hard to get Robbie out there, then he makes this tremendous run, and now the frustration.
Well, it's just one of them things we knew we'd go through some of this year. You know, we got here, we tested a couple weeks ago, we ran pretty decent, not like we wanted to, and we come here, made some adjustments, and first practice session we lost the blower with the 5 laps in the practice, and then we had the other car had a fuel pickup problem. Then we turned around this morning and shook down this car. We changed the motor in. It was running very, very well, and then we had an accident this morning, and then we changed everything and got out here about 1 minute before they said, "Gentlemen, start your engines." He did one hell of a job, and I just told him before that happened on the radio, "Take it easy, baby. We're doing good. Take it easy."
Well, he's out of the race now. I tell you, this got to be tougher than being a race driver, huh?
Well, I would say so. You know, it hurts, but I know it hurts him too. But we'll be back at Long Beach. We'll be tough there.
We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks.
Thank you.
Paul?
So A.J. Foyt concerned about his driver. You know, a number of serious injuries last year led IndyCar officials to implement a set of new safety regulations dealing with the design of the car. Now, Gary Giro takes a closer look at these modifications.
With the start of the new racing season come the implementation of new chassis changes for 1993 to better enhance driver safety. Now, from all outward appearances, this 1993 Lola chassis looks very much like the 1992 edition, but it's now 190 inches from the back of the rear wing to the tip of the nose, or 5 inches longer than last year. And all of that additional length can be found here at the nose of the car, the idea being to give more protection to the driver's feet and his lower legs. You'll find now 5 reinforced areas or bulkheads in the nose. One here behind the dash, a second and a third that handle this part of the suspension, a fourth just beyond the driver's feet in this area, and now a fifth down here where the nose is attached. Last year, if you hit the concrete and knocked the nose off, the driver's feet were about that far from being exposed. This year, he's got all of this additional length to better protect his lower legs. Another subtle little change up here in this part of the cockpit. It's a little wider and a little higher than in the past. The idea being that if the driver makes contact, he now has room where he can actually pull his knees back, not nearly as cramped as it was a year ago. Subtle little changes, but IndyCar officials are confident that these changes will better protect their drivers.
And Jimmy Swintel just gives the green flag to the field. We are back to racing with Paul Tracy, a full 2 laps ahead of the rest of the field. Second place on the EDS scoring monitor is Emerson Fittipaldi. Roberto Guerrero is third. Fourth is Mario Andretti. Fifth is Raul Boesel. But Paul Tracy has been incredible. As Bobby Unser mentioned, Robbie Gordon was spectacular up until he got to the wall. And in fact, you spend more time watching that run of Robbie Gordon up through the field than this wonderfully smooth run of Paul Tracy out in front.
Yes, Paul Tracy right now is just cruising. You can watch he's pulling away from Emma, but he's not taking off like he did early in the day. He has no reason to. Penske has told him, hey, you've got to win this race. Take it easy on the car. Shift gears, turn less RPM.
Tracy and Gordon are each 24 years old, and make no mistake, they are the young lions of this sport right now.
Mark Smith in the black car, as he's involved in a little bit of a fight here.
Mark Smith, 25. He's a contemporary of them and a guy with a very promising future, and another graduate of the Indy Lights racing.
There's that car, well put together, by the way. The crew chief on this car, Bob Sproul, who took a couple of Penske cars to wins.
Yeah, he used to be one of my mechanics back a few years ago. He's got a lot of experience.
Went away to some off-road and some road racing. Finds his way back to the IndyCar now. Has 2 wins on Bob Sproul's chief mechanic record. Front of the field remains Tracy as we continue to watch this fight. There's Kudrave, who has been battling for the last few laps with Mark Smith. Pulls away on this lap, but Mark Smith begins to close back in again.
You know, Paul, you mentioned some off-road experience, like racing in the Baja. A lot of the off-road specialists are turning out to be very effective at Indianapolis type racing, largely because of the shock absorber issue. You have to learn to make that car travel smoothly over rough terrain in off-road racing, and the same is true here. Even though the track seems smooth, you got to keep the car level.
You know, Sam, ironically bringing up shock absorbers, that's probably the single most important part of making an Indy car handle today, is the shock absorbers. What's happened is the tub itself, the chassis, it becomes so rigid that the suspensions really do all the work, so the shock absorbers have really become an important item.
Dave Kudrev, the 50 car, now runs pretty much alone. He was running with Smith for a while there. There's Rick Mears, Roger Penske. I think all of us wondered with Rick Mears getting out of the sport whether or not Roger would continue to show the interest that he has, the intensity. But he seems to really like Paul Tracy. We had a dinner with him last year, and he just sat there and raved about Paul the entire time. Take a look at the leaderboard from EDS scoring in the Valvoline 200 at this point with Paul Tracy. 2 pit stops, Fittipaldi 2, Guerrero 2. Can they maintain that? Well, Bobby Unser thinks so. We've just gone past the 153rd mile, as now we ride with Al Unser, who with attrition and staying careful with his driving has moved up into 7th place.
Yes, a little Al, watch his head. Watch all the vibration that you get. There's over 2.5 G's in the middle of the turns pushing against his headrest there that Sam was bringing up a little while ago.
You know, this is a typical drive for little Al. Bad qualifying and then comes on and on and on in the race. To be sure, he's only up to 7th, but it's been a terrific drive for him.
I've never seen this team, the Gallus team, have so many problems trying to get race cars working as they have both down at Australia and here at Phoenix today.
Well, of course, they were low on the customer list at Lola, and then Al crashed his car just shortly after it arrived, so they haven't tested as much as the others, and maybe that's hurting him.
The yellow Codilux car, that's Jimmy Vasser, who has just managed to get a lap back from Raul Boisel, who is a lap in front of him. Now, Jimmy still has a mile to make up, but Jimmy Vasser in 6th place now, running with a good run. And here is Al Unser Jr. as he continues in a battle with Arie Luyendyk, who just came up behind him. And Al Unser Jr. is, of course, chasing Jimmy Vasser, trying to catch him, while Vasser is simply trying to get that lap back from Boisel. A nice battle, 6th, 7th, and 8th place. Arie Luyendyk inside of Al Unser Jr. Not a pass for position, but they continue to battle throughout this course.
You can watch Luyendyk, who's getting way down close to the white line coming off, close to the wall. That's a conventional place, totally opposite of what Paul Tracy has been doing all day.
So 157 miles complete. Paul Tracy continues his 2-mile lead over the rest of the field. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Suddenly, without warning, Paul Tracy loses it and pops the wall. Dr. Steve Albee is there with him now. Here's how it happened. Paul Tracy coming off of 4, now working the main straightaway. Ducks to the inside, looks for racing room alongside Vasser, and just loses the back end on the pass.
Just physically lost it, Paul. I don't see any oil on the track. I don't see it. Boy, look at the cars that almost hit him as they went by.
Scott Pruitt came very close on the apron.
Really close, but it looks like it's just no reason except the rear end just got loose and it didn't snap. It just slowly came around.
Rick Mears, Roger Penske talk it over. They had this race totally covered. Here's another look. Same thing. He moves inside the slower car. Back end starts to come around just that quick. He can't catch it, and Paul's into the wall.
I believe that the back of his car was sucked into that negative pressure area behind Vasser's car.
Sam, there isn't enough slipstreaming or wind draft really to do it here at Phoenix down the turn. That's the turn that's got the most banking, but it's also the turn where Mansell and Robbie Gordon had problems. Maybe that turn just not working well today.
Possible when the car came down that he brushed the brake and that kicked it around?
Well, first of all, you have to be under power, Paul, to have traction in the rear end of these cars, and I think he was off of power, and that's when the rear end starts coming around.
Let's go to Jack Arute, who's with Roger.
And a disappointment, Roger. What happened? Did he talk to you?
Well, I guess he got caught in traffic with Jimmy Vasser. That's the same fellow he got in trouble with at Laguna at the end. But, you know, basically it's experience. Had a 2-lap lead. Basically, Vasser was 5 laps down, so I just hope he's okay, and it's experience. He sure drove a good race. The cars look good. The Chevy engines are running strong, so let's hope Emerson can bring it home for us. That's why we got 2 cars.
And that's the point. You've got mixed emotions. You're disappointed there, but you've also got Emo still in the hunt now.
Well, I guess that's why you have two cars, and I can tell you they're both good, and it was just a tough one for Paul, but he drove a great race.
Tough break, but good luck.
Thank you.
So Emerson Fittipaldi now assumes the lead with Paul Tracy's crash, and under yellow circulates in the Valvoline 200 behind the pace car. He marks the 68th year that a Goodyear blimp has flown over a major sporting event. Today it's the Valvoline 200 at Phoenix International Raceway, where we are under yellow, 166 miles complete. The yellow for Paul Tracy, who had a spectacular two-lap lead until he slapped into the wall. He limped away from his race car, and this was when Dr. Steve Alvey a few moments ago came to his aid. They put him on the back of one of the IndyCar safety vehicles and moved Paul then over to the ambulance. We want to check and make sure that Paul's okay, because he was favoring one leg there and still limping just a little bit. So we are still under yellow here at Phoenix International, and it is one of the toughest ovals that the IndyCars compete on all year. Here's a look at some of the more dangerous events we've seen at PR in the last 30 years. The mile in the desert has always been tough on drivers and devastating on their machines. It tamed Bobby Unser in 1965. As the technology increased and the speeds grew, so did the incidents. Johnny Rutherford flipped by his own tire. Tom Bagley, Unser, and Billy Engelhart. The great mile champion Tom Sneva and Scott Brayton as they got together. In 1986, Jose Lee Garza tried to tame the mile. Arie Luyendyk was leading the race until this pit fire. Even the oval master Rick Mears has had his problems at Phoenix. Bobby Rahal carried you right into the wall in 1989. For Dominic Dobson, the backstretch was very tough. And Scott Goodyear had his problems in much the same place. You rode with Scott Brayton as he avoided Guido Dacco. And last year with Scott Pruitt as he avoided Jimmy Vasser with this nifty little piece of driving. And now you add this to that long line of accidents here at the track. Paul Tracy, 2 laps in the lead, spins out behind Jimmy Vasser and catches the wall. As they are ready to go back to the green, Emerson Fittipaldi has a full lap lead on the field. Jim Swinton with the green flag, and we are racing once again. Mario Andretti, of course, 1 lap behind. He still has a chance.
Yes, Mario does. Mario's been fast all day. Not compared maybe to Tracy, but he's been fast all day and consistent. We're on board with Mario right now, going down the back stretch into turn 3.
And another car loses it up into the wall, and it is Emerson Fittipaldi. The second time a leader has been taken out of this race, both times a Penske car. Emerson barely a full lap under speed, and he's into the wall very quick. Bobby, I have no idea what got in there.
Well, Paul, I don't either, but it's obvious that Penske's team has been snake bit today. That's for certain, sure. Whatever happened with them, he has so much experience that I know that something on the car would have failed. He just doesn't do things like that himself.
Already the IndyCar safety team there, Roger Penske, gets this wonderful piece of news. Nigel Bennett was right there with him, the designer of these 2 cars. You got a glimpse of him for a moment there. Let's see if we can tell what happened here, Bobby.
Roll into third, it just snapped. Now, you see, that was a snap spin. Obviously, opposite of what we saw with Tracy. It looks to me like he broke a U-joint, something like that in the drivetrain, because it just snapped around quickly.
And what that will do is give the lead of the race to Mario Andretti. You saw him there. Here is Emo up into the wall. It appears that Fittipaldi is all right, but Jack Arute may be able to update us on what happened.
Well, Bobby Unser, once again, you were absolutely right. It snapped because Emerson Fittipaldi radioed in and said something broke on the right front of the car.
Right front of the car.